Segundo Ruiz Belvis Cultural Center is the oldest Latino cultural center in Chicago, 47 years now. And we're very excited to partner with Santurce Slay, directly from Puerto Rico, and Instituto de Subcultura, for a public art series like we haven't seen in Chicago for some time, especially with the top talent from Puerto Rico after Hurricane Maria. The series was pitched to the Chicago Community Trust. Borinquen Me Llama is the name of the public art series, where we intend to collaborate with local artists as well as working with Puerto Ricans from the island. The mural that's in the making right now in the back is a mural by Colectivo Morivivi, and they're collaborating with local artist Sandra Anton Giorgi for that piece. We also have 2 murals in the making by Puerto Rican artists right across the street from Segundo Ruiz Belvis. We have Biquismo from Arecibo, Puerto Rico, and we also have Luis Alejandro Rodriguez from Ponce, Puerto Rico, doing 2 beautiful 30-foot tall walls in front of Segundo Ruiz Belvis Cultural Center. We are also going to be doing an amazing mural right in the heart of the Paseo Boricua at Division and Rockwell, and that is going to be in the creative hands of the Stencil Network. It's a beautiful image, and we're very excited to partner with La Municipal, Bear Paint, the Chicago Community Trust, the Puerto Rican Cultural Center, and all the people that have helped us get that wall, such a great wall to have right in the heart of the Puerto Rican community. So we're very excited about how this week has been going, considering the weather and the rain. We've been able to do quite a bit of work, and we're very excited about what's coming. So this is going to be the last in a series of community talks where the community has an opportunity to meet the artists that are doing these great murals. We started on Friday night with Meet the Artist kind of presentation, where we also had a discussion on how community and public art intersect, and lessons learned from Santurce Slay, the biggest public art festival in Puerto Rico and in the Caribbean, is one of the top, and in Latin America as well. So we're very excited to have him here for that event. Then we literally planted our flag at the 606 block party. We erected a 17-foot tall sculpture of the Puerto Rican flag made of solid wood by artist Mark Rivera, here with us tonight. And that was an interactive flag. I think that we can show some pictures of that later on. Is that something we can put in the cards for tonight, Alexis? Maybe show some pictures of what we did at the 606 block party. Also, there was some live painting by Morivivi and the Stencil Network and Luis Alejandro Rodriguez, and those pieces will be revealed again tomorrow. We finished those pieces, but they're actually helping us hold the panels that we have right now. So behind those panels, there's another work of art and another work of art. So a lot of creativity happening this week here at Segundo Ruiz Belvis Cultural Center and the Puerto Rican community in Hermosa, Humboldt Park, the Humboldt Boulevard. So just all over the place. Very, very excited to have all these great artists with us. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to a good friend of mine, also one of the top public artists from Puerto Rico. He wants to talk to us about the history of public art. And I think that maybe we can have Alexis say a few words right before, just to give a little bit of time to Juanra from San Juan. He's going to be talking to us about the history of public art. So, Alexis, do you want to just say a few words about your experience here as we set the stage for this conversation? Feel free to ask questions. It's going to be very interactive, and we hope that you enjoy the conversation as we engage with these artists from Puerto Rico.
fue caminando para nosotros.
Well, anyway, this is therefore to say, transformation of human consciousness through meditation is frustrated so long as we think of it in terms of something that I myself can bring about by some kind of wangle, by some sort of gimmick. Because you see, that leads to endless games of spiritual one-upmanship and of guru competitions. Of my guru is more effective than your guru. My yoga's faster than your yoga. I'm more aware of myself than you are. I'm humbler than you are. I'm sorrier for my sins than you are. I love you more than you love me. There is interminable goings-on about which people fight and wonder whether they're a little bit more evolved than somebody else and so on. All that can just fall away. And then we get this strange feeling that we have never had, you see, in our lives, except occasionally by accident. Some people get a glimpse that we are no longer this poor little stranger and afraid in a world it never made, but that you are this universe. And you are creating it at every moment. Because you see, it starts now. It didn't begin in the past. There was no past. See, if the universe began in the past, when that happened, it was now. See? Well, it's still now. And the universe is still beginning now, and it's trailing off like the wake of a ship from now. And the wake of the ship fades out, so does the past. You can look back there to explain things, but the explanation disappears. You'll never find it there. Things are not explained by the past. They're explained by what happens now. Cheer up. You can't blame anyone else for the kind of world you're in. And if you know, you see, that I, in the sense of the person, the front, the ego, it really doesn't exist, then it won't go to your head too badly if you wake up and discover that you're God.
Okay, we start with graffiti. Is origin, its etymology is the word graphio, which means to scratch, and the origin of that word comes from the Greek, which means to write. So writing is our way of communicating, and that is the essence of the creation of art, which is meant for others to see. And we can go back to the cave art paintings, where there was a need for markings to leave for future generations or for religious purposes. So We have early depictions of animals that they wanted to hunt for the hunt to be successful, so they would go to the caves and put up into the wall caves whatever they imagined that they wanted to see in their hunt. So it's just a way of expressing themselves. So we see it all over the globe. You know, this is more of Australian cave paintings, but it's the same idea of having to go to a wall and put something up. They need to see that animal before whatever was going to happen in the ritual or the hunt. So we also have, next one, we have like the Nazca lines. We just have this need to draw upon the earth, to scratch the surface, to communicate. And these ones I think are amazing because you know you can't even see it with the naked eye. So to me that's like amazing. So next one. Next. We have our very own markings in the Taino markings in Puerto Rico, which we can see all throughout different cultures, just a need to create these symbols which carry a lot of weight and a lot of information for each culture. So, but you know, they knew they were gonna last long. You know, they knew they were sending out, stamping out, creating a moment in time and capturing it, saying, you know, I was here, and this is something that we're gonna see throughout time. So brincaste una, no, before that. So these are the old drawings found in Egypt, and the archaeologists, you know, what something that looks like a scratch on the rock is actually one of the earliest depictions of, you know, the pharaohs in Egypt and their power. And it's just crazy to find it in a rock in the desert, but it's one of the earliest evidence of this. And it's a scratch on the wall. It's something meant like a message, like a message in a bottle. You know, they knew it's gonna carry over time. So the art, you know, it's either public, made by normal people like you, or it's state sponsored. And we see very early state sponsored art, which is meant to, you know, control society and create hierarchy. So we have evidence of these temples being fully painted, and it's, you know, it's there's a relation. In my opinion, I see relationship from what we're doing today, and we have another forms of, you know, state sponsored art, such as, you know, churches in Europe, and it's not something new. They have been doing this for a long time, and see, we have this is type of evidence. We have that these temples were fully painted, you know. And something, no brinques a la otra, dale para atrás. This is, I want to show you because something we're gonna keep seeing is, you know, there's a need for this person that vandalized these temples. You know, it was either because of Christian occupation or maybe the new pharaoh was coming in, but the act of destruction is also, you know, part of this graffiti culture. The vandalizing is something very, very relevant to make a statement. So I think some would say, oh, it's a destruction of a patrimony. But to the person that destroyed this, he had this message, he has this mission, he had his idea of how, you know, attack the symbol. So vandalizing, it's something that it's, in my opinion, it's also acceptable because we're gonna see eventually more symbols that sometimes symbols carry this power and they need to be destroyed. Next. So here we see, you know, it says 1837, 1819, because Europeans started discovering Egypt, they started traveling over there and they started leaving their marks on the temples. So it's something that we're going to see keeping it happening. But I wanted to show you this in time because it's an Egyptian temple. And here we can see how, this works. They don't survive time because new generations come by. So new people have other things to say. So this is Roman era graffiti. People went to see the gladiators and they were like, oh my gosh, I love that fight between the giant Viking and whatever. And they go into the baths and they just scratch that on the surface. They just wanted to mark that moment, to capture it in time. And we can see the different markings of the different gladiator fights because they were very popular. So there's a lot of it. Pasó lo mismo. Kind of hangs. So that's something I really, really love. Like, keep searching for that connection in history to where we are at. And when I saw the Roman graffiti, I was like, I feel that guy. I understand that guy. He loved the fight. He remembers the guys playing the flute, and he remembers people and the king, and it's a documentation, and it's a fascinating document to see. I love it, I really do. And this is a little transcript so we kind of understand what's going on. It says, games at Nola of Marcus Cominius hears over 4 days. So not only does he draw the fight, he actually gives it the name and the date. So this is a little bit further in time from the Crusades, and when there was this type of rituals, the Crusaders would travel to Jerusalem and they would leave their marks in temples, and it was sort of a rite of passage. And again, I see, that essence of graffiti, that scratching, that leaving a mark. And this is prisoner graffiti. Someone was, kept in a jail or calabozo. How do you say that? In a dungeon, and they just leave their marks on the wall of the dungeon, or it's just, obviously they don't have much to do, but there's a need of saying, this sailor was here in this cell so as to not to be forgotten or so as to tell his story. So this, I love it because, who hasn't done this in kindergarten or in elementary school? It's just trace your hand on the wall. This has been done forever. We just saw it in the beginning. Cavemen, not cavemen, but the early Homo sapiens, they made just this, just the same. And this is 1818, and we're still seeing it's so relevant, it's so human. So I really love that graffiti when it's just a scratch hand with the date. No le vayas tan rápido, dale para atrás. So this is graffiti on Egypt. For example, a big temple, the legs of, I think is the temple of Tartak, or of one of those temples, I'm sorry. And you can see the dates and the name, which is something we see, in bathrooms, It's like, that persona, was here. So, again, this is more graffiti inside churches, old churches, where people just go through and just leave their mark. Próxima. So now we're getting closer to modern graffiti. So this is maybe from the Austro-Hungarian Empire. And this is one of the earliest documentations of someone who took their idea to scratch on bricks throughout the empire. So Kiselak is possibly one of the proto-street artists, if you want to put it in modern terms. Dale next. So about the destruction of symbols, when we saw the pharaohs where they were defaced. And this is one that hits closer to home, is closer to our time, where this is this famous destruction of the Nuremberg Nazi symbols. So it's an act very relevant of we won, we are the winners of this war, and one of the things that we need to do is erase these symbols. So after the war, one symbol that was very famous is Kilroy, and it really traveled amongst the troops. It's a symbol that's easily recognizable. People would imitate it. But after the Second World War, this is maybe one of the earliest evidence of graffiti as we know it today. Next. So here you can see evidence of the graffiti in one of the army vehicles. Next. So during that era too, it's called Mr. Eternity. So this is guy used to scratch on the floors, but it's an act that I really associate with graffiti and street art because we kind of recognize that graffiti and street art is not forever. So I find it very interesting that he used to draw Mr. Eternity with chalk, which is not that forever material. So I think it's a great piece of early graffiti. Next. So this is hobo graffiti. So during the Great Depression, people used to travel throughout the U.S., and this is a way of communicating with other hobos. These symbols use markings on different sides of buildings or trains. So they communicate because of police clothes, beware of dog, there's water here, people are nice here. I think that's fascinating. To me, that's fascinating. And it's something I really see, a connection with graffiti today. So one of my favorite graffiti ever is this. This is from the 1968, I think, French Student Revolution. And it says, "Let's be realist. Let's demand the impossible," which I think is, it's very powerful, and it's very, attacking the status quo and empowering. I just love this type of graffiti, and it's not beautiful. It's just the power of the words. So I think it's one of my favorite graffitis ever. Next. So graffiti was also used very early on for gang warfare, for territory markings, and we still see it today with the Latin Kings or whatever you wanna, the Crips and the Bloods. It's a way of marking territory. And this is one of the earliest documentations of it. So be careful. You're entering the Duke's territory. It's a straight up message. You can't ignore, but that's graffiti's job. So this is one of the, allegedly the first modern graffiti writer, Cornbread from Philadelphia, and he is accredited as being the first, and I think that's a big deal, and we gotta respect the man for that. As it started in Philadelphia, next, it started in New York, this underground movement, basically, which obviously became something global, as we know today. But it started with this young generation, hip hop and punk. So it was something that was of the young generation, and it served as a tool for us to express our new ideas. Next. So everyone's seen the trains in New York, some subway graffitis everywhere, trains painted. And this is one that I really love because it really embodies what I think it's graffiti, we're unstoppable, we're uncatchable, we're nasty. You know, there's no editorial group that looks at pieces before they go up. There's no one to tell you, no, you can't write that. This is unedited and raw. So it's a graffiti I really like because it. So we cannot ignore that punk scene in Britain, and it has history in this graffiti world because again punk is raw and in your face, so they really go the one with the other. And you know it's something that breaks the mold, and it worked really well for this young generations, and we're seeing it still today, which is something that serves as a tool of expression. So a great example of how to communicate ideas. So don't be a slave to the system. Next. Art is our only salvation from the horror of existence. You know, this is unedited. You know, this is just this guy just went out and he just wanted to say something, and you know he did, and that's what I love about it. You know, you may not like it, but it's pure. You know. So next. So everyone, I hope, knows who this is, Keith Haring. So we're getting closer and closer to our modern times, to 2018, and he's used to go through the subways and paint, and get arrested, which is like a rite of passage to street artists. So next, Samo. Samo is the Basquiat handle, as in same old shit. Same old for the so-called avant-garde. Same old graffitis are great. They are sometimes, they're mostly like surreal, they kind of don't make sense, but make sense. I love the same old work of art. So this is John Fechner. This is one of the first public street art, but really criticizing. And this is the gentrification in New York. So this is broken promises. Falsas promesas is because the landlords, they promised they would not destroy the buildings, and they did, and they removed people forcibly, and it was chaos in the city. And this is unedited, raw critique of these landlords and the idea of the city to remove people. So he's just in your face is like, you broke your promises. And to me, it's very relevant because in Puerto Rico, we have a new economic program which is called Promesa, promise. And I'm coming from a politician, you hear the word promise, is like, yeah, whatever. So it's a piece that I really love. So this is Black Le Rat. Obviously, we're going to see more pieces related to stencil because I'm the stencil network. So my research is kind of works around the concept of the stencil. So Black Le Rat is supposedly the one who inspired Banksy. He's a Frenchman. He's fine, but, Banksy really took this style and took it to the next level, So Banksy is possibly, the most famous street artist in the world. And the next one, this is his latest work, some of his latest work. So the guy is still pretty active and pretty famous and multimillionaire too. And this is one of my favorite political vandalisms ever. This is a vandalism of a Russian era sculpture, and it's an amazing work of art. They took these superheroes and they covered this Russian propaganda sculpture with their enemy, with the images of Captain America and Ronald McDonald and Superman. So I really loved it. They clean it, they paint it again. This is an ongoing warfare between the artist and the city. And obviously, you know, crises and modern times, they bring out the creativity because we need to speak out. We need to criticize what's happening. So street art serves as a perfect way to communicate our ideas and what we think of the modern climate. So it really works well to express. And this is again, I mean, this is no one approved this. He just went out, painted it, but a lot of people like it because a lot of people can relate to it. And I think that's the was so great and so powerful about street art. Next. And I think we all have seen a wall like this. I think this is the same as the hands that we saw in the cave. It's the same thing. It's just so human to create, so human to communicate. And even if I don't exactly love graffiti, I respect it and I have learned to love it. And my research is ongoing. And I appreciate you guys coming. I hope you really liked the presentation that I made for you guys. So we're gonna be painting in a few days. You're gonna be seeing my mural. So now we're gonna be seeing some other videos from Santurce's Ley. So thank you very much. Yeah, of course.
Before we get
Yes. It's just so normal to just, okay, I'm done. No, but go ahead. If you have any questions, or it doesn't have to be questions, maybe what image that you saw there you like the most. Anything, it could be anything. Yes. Yeah. When did it start getting big? Whew. I think it hasn't been 20 years, but I think more than 10 years, like a real boom in street art. But do you know who can answer that question with precisely? Alexis. Yes, ma'am, on the back. Oh, the Russian sculpture. Before you go, I have the name of the sculpture. Yes, I love that piece. It's beautiful. So, but yeah, I mean, like Mark said, he's one of the artists here. We have really seen a change on the art scene. It has grown exponentially, and I think it is a direct response, a direct consequence of the international street art movement that has been created by Alexis and other people that have collaborated to create that atmosphere of creativity in Puerto Rico. And it is really amazing. And we are still churning out all stars. You know, I don't think they have more than 25 years old. So they're coming out super young, super talented. And it is our pleasure to be here in Chicago. And I'm dying to paint. I'm starting to paint tonight. So I have this butterflies. Yes.
You have to show us.
What?
You're not gonna show us the idea, no? Boo. Okay. These artists are so difficult. But you know what? Basically, it's an invitation for you to stop by Rockwell on Division and see the process. We're gonna mark tonight, so we're gonna be tracing tonight. He's gonna be tracing tonight, and then by tomorrow, I'm assuming that we should be able to start seeing him really get in his muse and really work quite a bit. He has quite a bit of work from now until July 2nd when he takes off back to Puerto Rico. So pretty intensive. Any other questions or comments about the presentation?
Hi. Yeah. So basically, all these artists been in the scene since day one. It all started for them mostly with some either liking of design, painting, cartoons, books, and then they decide to study more on the subject. They become artists between friends. Graffiti, it's a common denominator in most of these artists around the world. Graffiti gave us that first step to hit the streets, be known, and also explore what we want to say through art. Most of these artists' first pieces were illegal, were around the streets, were against the system, or just plain telling the world, I'm here. Artists evolve. Some of them go to art school, some of it get more interested, get some knowledge from other friends, the internet. The information got globalized, knowledge got spread. One of the artists that, for example, it's innato, his learnings, but also was strictly by association of his peers, was Bikismo, which is down there painting right now. Where he's from, he met some guys that painted. He already had that. He's seen some images. He wanted to do it, so he started doing it by himself. His dad would take him to the walls. And then he met some guys, and some guys were doing it before them. The diaspora has to do a lot with graffiti in Puerto Rico because they used to come from New York and they used to come to the island. And while the time they were here in the weekends or the summer, they would have their bad habits spread to other artists. Good habits that we live from them now. We evolved, some got stuck on graffiti and haven't evolved into some other matters. It depends on the artist if you want to evolve or you want to be strict to a style forever. So right now in Puerto Rico, what we have is it's a mix of both. Artists that progress through time have molded to what society and the world is doing. That meaning bigger, more conceptual, more experimental, and not being afraid about where you come from of the art scene, just doing and doing and doing more. We have, for example, a good example of an urban artist that it's a sculpture, that he's a musician also, Mark Rivera. This guy right here. Oh, hi, Mark. So, it's the hunger of the urban artist that makes a good artist, I think. We don't wait for anybody. We don't take no for an answer. We go for it, and if you stop, we just keep going. Through time in Santurce's been hit by walls by FX Crew, Ski, Rec, the DMB Boys, bombers like Class, many graffiti artists took the canvas of the city into another level. Me as a curator didn't know the word curator until my 4th festival. We didn't even were thinking about that. I was more, I opened a gallery and I showed up some of the artists that I really admire. I went to Pratt, I studied at Pratt. I used to be a graffiti writer. I loved it. And then we started this festival that kind of blew up in our faces. We changed the community to art, and the project doesn't have a date. It's, we say celebration for the artists that lasts 4 or 5 days, but it actually lasts 2 months of construction. We have to be around each other, learning and destroying and reconstructing what we want to say. The last time we did it was in Ponce, Puerto Rico. I think I showed the video already. It has been 2 years, more than 2 years, that we haven't done Santurce's Ley. Now we're coming for the 7th edition after Maria. The curatorial process depends mostly on new artists, new ideas, and the concept of this year, it's based on what we want to say after Maria and what is going on with the economic status and everything that is going wrong with our society, we will try to fix it through art. We think it worked. I mean, for us, it changed the community. We're getting recognized like as an art community powerful enough to say their words around the world. These artists keep flying. They keep going places. Big, for example, came 1 week ago from Belgium. Morivivi came from China. And we're getting recognized for art. It's imagery made well by Puerto Rican artists that it's given us a leeway of recognition around the world. Now we're here. We're about to finish in next week. There's 2 murals going on right now. Mark is going to get his sculpture back up. It's behind this San Juan fox. Yeah, we have. I don't think it downloaded. Yeah? Okay. But first, I wanted to show you the teaser for Santurce Ley 7. It hasn't come out yet. I want to show it to you guys. It's a recap of Santurce Ley 6. It was a lot of work into it. It was actually pretty crazy.
Yes, we're excited about that. Any other questions? Any other things? Any comments? We have also Alejandro here. He's painting a mural in the front, and he took a break to get some tacos. So, Alejandro, you're doing great work. This is you could say, his first mural outside of Puerto Rico and his first mural of this size, period. So, a new experience for Luis Alejandro from Ponce. We're excited that this is the first place where he's venturing to do that. And if you go outside and see the level of detail in the expressions of the subjects that he picks is quite amazing. It's like you can see the soul of these people, you know. And then we have Biquismo. That was the process of putting it up. So we did some live painting also with these guys. That's the Stencil Network with Luis Alejandro doing a collaborative piece. And that was all completed in one day there at the 606. This is the piece created by Colectivo Morivivi. You see how fast they work? They completed that piece, and now this one is well on its way right now. Colectivo Morivivi. And yeah, so we have big ideas, big hopes and dreams for this sculpture. So let's see what happens. As long as he doesn't take over the space completely, okay? You gotta leave me a little space so I can hold some events here, okay? Anyway, okay, well, welcome to the Segundo Ruiz Belvis. If you wanna have a taco, please do. There's some beer. You can mingle a little bit. The artists are here. Colectivo Morivivi is painting, but they're very nice. So if you ask them a question, they won't be like, "Oh, I'm busy. I don't want to talk to you." They're gonna be like, "No, yeah, talk to you and everything." So that's Colectivo Morivivi, and then we have Luis Alejandro here. Vic is, I think, back to work. Is he here too? Vic is here. Vicismo. He was also in the videos. His style is the chrome figure and capturing the reflection of in the chrome figure. So a hyper realist, really interesting work. So we're very excited to see what's coming together there in that wall. And then, of course, my friend, the Stencil Network. So thank you for coming to Segundo Ruiz Belvis. This is the Public Arts Series, Borinquen Me Llama, sponsored by the Chicago Community Trust. Thank you.